Hello and welcome to our quick guide to self-assessment and the deadlines that you need to adhere to if you're required to fill in a self-assessment tax return by HMRC. Now, we're often asked by people when they need to submit their self-assessment tax returns, and there's actually not an easy answer to this because there are a number of different deadlines. But I thought I'd start with maybe a history lesson to start with, because it always seems to me that the date of the tax year end, the 5th of April, seems to be a strange day to have a tax year end on. It just seems like a random date. So I did a bit of research into this, and the reason is simply this, that a number of years ago, we're talking hundreds of years here, the 1st of January never used to be New Year's Day. It used to be the 25th of March was always New Year's Day. So then, a bit closer in terms of time, but still hundreds of years ago, the UK changed from the Julian to the Gregorian calendar, and 11 days were lost out of the calendar. Now, the Treasury didn't want to lose 11 days worth of income, so they shifted the tax year end from New Year's Day, which at the time was the 25th of March, to about the 4th of April. And there were a couple of bank holidays that didn't happen in the 1800s, which meant that the day shifted again. So we're stuck now with the 5th of April as the tax year end. And that's why the tax year runs 6th of April to the 5th of April. And that's why then we've got some fairly strange dates in terms of tax return deadlines. So if the tax year ends on the 5th of April, when do you actually need to submit your self-assessment tax return? Well, the backstop date, the absolute deadline, the bit that you can't miss it, you're going to get fined if you do miss that date, is the 31st of January in the year following the end of the tax year. So this year, if the tax return year finished on the 5th of April 2015, you've got until the 31st of January 2016 to submit your tax return. Of course, it's good to get your tax return done before that, because leaving it till the end of January 31st is quite stressful for everybody concerned. Now, there are a couple of other dates in there as well that you need to be aware of. So, for example, if you've completed a tax return on paper, which you can still do, you need to submit that paper tax return by the 31st of October in the year that the tax year finished. So 5th of April 2015, if you want to submit by paper, it's got to be submitted by the 31st of October 2015. If you want HMRC to collect any tax you owe from your wages or pension, then your tax return needs to be completed by the 31st of December. So there are kind of other dates in there that potentially you might need to be aware of. Now, going back to that 31st of January absolute backstop deadline date, if you do miss that date, then there are fines, as I mentioned a little while ago. If you miss that deadline date by a minute, if you submit your tax return at 1 minute after midnight on the 31st of January, there is an immediate £100 fine. After that, more penalties are added after 3 months, and then 3 months after that. And in fact, penalties can increase up to a minimum of £1,600 for every year that you're late with your tax return. So it's really important that you submit the tax return on time to save yourself these extra amounts. In terms of other dates, well, within the tax year, the 31st of January, you need to pay any tax that's owed if you're paying it in a lump sum to HMRC. And sometimes you may have to pay money on account for next year's tax bill, and that needs to be done in 2 instalments, with the first instalment on the 31st of January and the next instalment by the 31st of July in the following year. Of course, the best thing to do if you're unsure about any of these dates is nip into your accountant and ask them to talk through and clarify the dates that apply to you. Or even better from our point of view, of course, is get your accountant to do your tax return for you.